Welcome again to the Harrisonburg Rotary Club. I hate to quiet the crowd from good conversation to do this stuff, but if you will allow me, something I've not done yet, and maybe this will be the last time, I've got a little Rotary joke, okay? Now, I had one that I thought was really funny. I tested it with Keenan Moore, and he's like, yeah, that's really funny, but I'll pick another one. I mean, it probably would have worked, but this one is a doctor, we've got some in the group, lawyers, and a Rotarian in charge of fundraising. This is a Rotarian fundraiser.
Be careful.
Exactly. So they all died at the same time. St. Peter tells them they may each have one thing to take with them to heaven. The doctor goes first and asks for $1 million. This is given, and he proceeds to enter heaven. The lawyer, not to be outdone, asks for $2 million. Very well, says St. Peter, opens the gate to the heaven for the lawyer. There's hope, Quinn. Finally, it's time for the Rotarian, who had just finished a fundraising project for the Rotary Foundation. St. Peter asks him what he would like to take to heaven. The fundraiser moves up very close to St. Peter and in a soft voice asks, if it's not too much trouble, sir, could I just have the names of those two people who are ahead of me in line? Always looking for prospects. So with that said, we will refocus ourselves to the things that we think, say, or do.
First is the truth. Second is fair to all concerned. Third will build goodwill and better friendships. Fourth will be beneficial to all concerned.
Today's song is by our favorite fundraiser, Les Helmuth.
My country 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside, let freedom ring.
Now let's turn to the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Steve Wingfield with today's invocation.
Lord, I thank you for a beautiful day that you've blessed us with. Thank you for the privilege of being a part of this club and for the difference that we can make in this community and around the world. Lord, we pray for those who are still grieving in Nashville, Franklin, Tennessee over the shootings last week. I pray for healing in that community, and I pray what the enemy meant for harm somehow would be turned for good. So we commit ourselves to seek your face and to follow hard after you. Thank you for this food. Bless our meeting today. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I'll call Dan up, as you may be seated. I'll call Dan up for, Ken, great. Ken Garner gets to do this today.
We'd like to welcome today as a guest Kelly Blosser, as a guest of Quentin Callahan and Chris Quinn. Kelly, and either of you men would like to say a few words?
Sure. Kelly's with us today to talk about the Chamber of Commerce. So most of you probably know Kelly. Please join me in welcoming Kelly.
We're also welcoming as a guest Todd Dodson, who's a guest of Steve Wingfield. Steve?
Todd's with me today, Todd. From Roanoke, Virginia, and visiting today, and hope all you business leaders will at least meet him, and hope sometime he can come back and be one of our speakers. He's with C12. What's C12?
C12 is faith-based consulting for business owners and executives.
Okay. Thanks, Todd.
Well, welcome, Todd. Let's do it. And finally, we'd like to welcome Adam Savanik, who's a guest of Maynard. Maynard?
I was living in Scottsdale, Pennsylvania in 1984, and Adam was born. And we had been living and working together and been like family with him and his brothers and his family so we feel like family, and I'm glad he's here today.
Welcome, Adam.
we're looking forward to maybe adding another table to Rotary here soon. It keeps growing. We were scrambling today adding chairs, so that's great. I do want to mention one family of Rotary thing, and others may have ones that you want to share as well, but one of our very own, Andy Van Hook, was just selected as the 2025-26 District Governor. Well deserved. Many of you know this, but Andy works as a servant behind the scenes, does not seek attention. A lot of folks don't even see Andy around up front anymore, but he's helping us all the time. So well-deserved servant leadership. Thank you. You'll serve us well. Any other family Rotary things that you want to bring to our attention? I'm going to jump into a report from Saturday Service Project, which was just a lot of fun. We had about a dozen Rotarians at the Mercy House in the rain, working together. I don't know that, yeah, Holly's here. Holly came with the tools that we needed. Not that I was surprised by them, I guess I was, but it was just a great event. Stand up if you were there Saturday, just to be recognized. And as always, Maynard brings the big stuff we need, so thank you for coming with trailer and truck. And it was just a great day, and we're going to have more things to share that we'll help Mercy House with coming down the pike. Touch base on a couple other fundraisers, and you can fill in the details, Noah, but April 15th is Black Swan Cleanup. It is not a Rotary hosted event, but we have a sign up that's been out by email, giving you a chance to give back to the community. Great spring activity. And then the RAM Clinic also has been sent out by email. Again, we're not taking ownership of that, but they definitely need volunteers, and that's how we can give back as Rotarians. And that's really kind of it for now. I do want to mention again, next Monday, we're going to do our board nominations. And again, some of you get excited remembering the old days. It's not quite that crazy, but it should be interesting and informative at the very least. So we will share 3 board nominations and then vote to nominate or receive them as a club. That's next Monday, and with that said, Rodney can talk to us about maybe pets, but also our speaker. Oh, yeah, I'm going to call Andy up. I just tell him he never gets in front of us. I want to bring him in front of us now. Come on up.
Real quick, there's sign-up sheets on your table for the Code of Ethics Awards, Monday, May the 15th. You all did a great job of signing up in the last week. We've got 11 spots left, and those are with some schools. So it's a great time to sit and meet the winners of the Ethics Awards and their families and the principals of those schools. So if you wouldn't mind, sign them up, and so we can get those locked in and ready to go for ethics. So thanks. Thanks, Mike.
So what Rotary needs is more flags.
Yeah.
And so I was at Pets training this last Friday and Saturday down at Virginia Tech with Andy. At least you were there on Friday, and he spoke to us about membership and serving on that membership task force. But so this is the new for the new year of Rotary International, which is Create Hope in the World. So I know we've got lots of Rotary. So one of the things I'm learning about, there's lots of Rotary connections. So this is the Rotary International. For those of us who were at the conference, the 7570 conference, there's a separate theme for the conference, or for the district, which is Imagine Rotary. But this is the new Rotary International theme for the year, Create Hope in the World. So I'm going to have that up here. We'll hang it somewhere. The other thing I'm going to do then is I was going to put these on tables, and then I got here late. But these are, another thing you need as a Rotary member is another pin. And so create hope in the world pins. So I'm going to just start over here, and you guys, whoever wants a pin can take them and then just kind of pass them around the room. And I will not go into a lot of what we did at PETS training, but PETS obviously is the President-elect training, and so there was from the whole district, and we met Friday and Saturday at the inn at Virginia Tech, and it was mostly just learning about how to be a good president. So I hope I was paying attention.
We hope to.
Maybe you should hope that I was paying attention. Mostly, they said I should rely on the current president to help me. So that's Wayne. So if the transition goes poorly, it's Wayne's fault. So with that, I'm going to introduce our program for the day. So we have multiple speakers today, some of which I will introduce and some not. So today is the chamber, and Quentin is going to, I think, start that out, and I'm not going to introduce Quentin because you guys know Quentin. But Kelly Blosser is also here. And so Kelly is currently the CFO at Riddleberger Brothers, and she has been since 2001, but she is involved in the community all over, so I'm just going to do a couple of things. So we actually crossed paths back years and years ago. We were both at WLR / Pilgrims at the same time, so she was there, but is currently at Riddleberger, where she has been for a long time. But in the community, she is also on the board at Virginia Mennonite Retirement Community, on the board at Blue Ridge Community College, and she is on the board at the Chamber of Commerce. So she also earned her BS in Commerce from the University of Virginia and her MS in Accounting from James Madison, right? And then after Kelly, Chris Quinn is the current president and CEO of the Harrisonburg Chamber of Commerce. And prior to arriving in the Valley, spent time in Florida, where he was the vice president of international affairs for Wexton Strategies, a political affairs and business development firm. He also spent several years as vice president of industry and governmental affairs for the Jacksonville Chamber of Commerce. In addition to those roles, Chris worked in DC for groups such as the Association of Advanced Life Underwriting, where he was responsible for Industry Coalition, the Issues Alliance, and then led DMA, Nonprofit Federation, as the executive director. Chris is has an undergraduate degree in political science from the University of South Carolina and a master's degree in political science from Suffolk University in Boston. So welcome all, and we'll invite Quentin out.
Yeah, all right. Thanks, Rodney, and thanks everybody for having us. I had to give Chris a hard time. I had to show him where the button was in the box. You know, only way I could get him to a meeting was to invite him as a speaker. So I wanted to come today and talk about the Chamber of Commerce. We've changed some of the things we're doing at the Chamber of Commerce. I know many of you participate in the Chamber of Commerce in one way or another. Either you have in the past or you may do so in the future. So this is my year as chair. I was chair-elect last year following Skip Weekly from LD&B, who did a great job. And that was our first full year with Chris. So since Chris has come on, one of the biggest things we did last year is we spent about 6 months going through strategic planning and identifying strategic goals and laying out our mission and vision. One of the overriding principles with me, Skip, and now Kelly is membership value. That's one of our biggest things that came out of that. So making sure that we had a strategic plan focused on membership value. So one of the first things that we've done is we have revised the bylaws to better reflect our current membership and how we're structured and how we do the events. The other thing is the events themselves. So before we had a lot of just straight networking events, right? A lot of business after hours and things like that. Since then, we've tried to change that. So how many people were at the State of the Economy breakfast last week? Anybody in here? Yeah, and enjoyable, a little different. We had Secretary Merrick, the Secretary of Trade and Commerce from Richmond. Chris has done a great job about bringing speakers in from Richmond to speak to our community. In addition to Secretary Merrick, we also had Casey Armstrong from the county and Brian Scholl, member of the club from the city, talking about economic development, how the city and county work together, but also the state, and making that connection from local, regional, and state. Jay Langston was there as well from Shenandoah Valley Partnership, although he didn't speak. So strategic planning, strategic relationships, that's what we've really been focused on in using the event. We also used to always have our annual banquet in January, which was a celebration when we gave out some of the awards, but we conducted business. We split that into 2 events, so we still have a business meeting, although it's over Zoom, pretty simple. The awards are now part of an annual award celebration, which is going to be later this month, April 27th. It's out at Bricks and Columns. Great event last year. I don't know if anybody was able to attend last year. A lot more opportunity for more organic, intentional networking. One of the biggest things I've seen is we had a lot of opportunities for what I would say more sales-focused people to get together at business after hours or different networking events. We did not have as much opportunity for executive level leadership people to come together. And that was one of the biggest things I noticed last week at the State of the Economy, is that first 30 minutes was available for networking, and the number of people that were able to talk to each other that don't see each other that often, that aren't in this room together. And so we're trying to be more intentional about these events to create networking time for the people that are going to attend those high-level events, but also potentially create a executive level leadership program so that we have cohorts of leaders in the community that are intentionally connecting either on a monthly or a quarterly basis. Many people are probably familiar with the leadership Harrisonburg, Rockingham, like the leadership program. How many people have been through that? I went through that, right? Lots of us, right? It's a great program, especially when you're earlier in your career, but we don't have that next step. So that's one thing we're talking about doing. We don't want to lose focus on the key factors in our community. So about a year and a half ago, the Chamber, in connection with the United Way, adopted the 3 core areas of focus: transportation, housing, and childcare. So luckily for the Chamber quit doing the, what do we call it, the thing that Rotary's doing now. Valley Fest, right. Couldn't remember the name. I'm glad Andy's here to save me. So the Rotary started doing Valley Fest, but the Chamber said, well, we want to still be involved in some way. So the Chamber has been working with 3 or 4 large employers on a potential model for childcare in our community, because it's such a great need. With the size of our businesses, we don't have anybody that's willing to take the childcare in-house independently. So how do we do that as a collective? So when we think about membership value, how do we deliver membership value, but also making sure that the Chamber is a convener, right? That we're bringing people together for these big ideas. And I think one of the questions last week at the State of the Economy was, what is, at the state level, what are we doing about childcare? Wasn't a great answer. It was maybe deregulation, maybe throw some dollars at it, right? It wasn't a great answer. So that should tell us that's a local issue. We've got to come up with those answers here. So I'm really proud of the Rotary Club stepping in and being able to provide those grants for the child care centers, but it's also on the side with the Chamber on the business side to make sure that we're addressing those needs at the business level. For me, obviously I've been involved in this club for a long time. I've been involved in the Chamber. I do that because I think that these 2 organizations have a lot of overlap, but they do it in very, very different ways. So when we can collaborate, I think is when we can be the most powerful in the community. And so that's what I'm hoping is a byproduct of, the strategic plan, the strategic goals, to make sure that we do similar things very differently, and to making sure that it's symbiotic. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kelly. Kelly can talk a little bit about what she hopes to do next year and anything else Kelly wants to talk to. I'm not going to put her in a box.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. So good to Good afternoon, everyone. It's so good to see you, and it's so good to see some familiar faces today. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the Chamber, and thank you, Quentin and Chris, for giving me the opportunity as well. You two gentlemen are certainly the heavy lifters today, but I will share just a few comments about why our business has been involved in the Chamber for so many years, and then certainly why I personally have been involved and what it's meant to me. But thank you, Rodney, for that wonderful introduction. Yeah, we did work together a long time ago, and after WLR, I joined Riddleberger Brothers, and I worked for Riddleberger and their parent company for over 20 years, and I think during that time, Riddleberger's been a Chamber member, goodness, for longer than that. I would say 30, maybe 40, maybe even longer. Chris and Sheena certainly have those stats. But Riddleberger's been involved with the Chamber because of that member value that Quentin talked about. For Riddleberger, one of the biggest values that we've received over the years is just that advocacy piece and having that, you know, voice representing the business community, particularly at the state level. And, you know, and it's so nice that Chris is certainly inviting those state representatives to come to our local area so, you know, they can get to know us, we can know them, and we can certainly, you know, collaborate and build relationships and continue to have our voices heard. I certainly want to give Chris a bit of praise, as well as his team, Sheena and Alexis and Trent. They have done a wonderful, wonderful job, especially over this past year with the strategic planning, as Quentin mentioned, but also that long-term vision. They've really spent a lot of time looking at who the Chamber is and where the Chamber wants to go. They also spent a lot of time looking at the values of the Chamber and of the organization. And to me personally, that's what really touches me, and that's what makes me want to be involved with the Chamber. You know, one of their first values is inclusion, and inclusion in the business community. Doesn't matter if you're a big organization or a small one, doesn't matter what industry you're in, doesn't matter your ownership. Chris and his team are there to support you and to provide, you know, a wonderful service to you. So that inclusion certainly touches my heart. Quentin mentioned the leadership that the Chamber promotes and encourages, and certainly that leadership, you know, not only with his team, but also with the programs that is offered to the community. I've mentioned advocacy, which is certainly a core value. Quentin mentioned that collaboration. They give us such great opportunities for all of us to get together, like the Rotary here today, to give businesses just the opportunity to come together and, you know, to share best practices and to learn from each other and to really collaborate and, you know, do what's best for our community. And lastly, they are such a dependable organization, really just a trusted advisor. So, you know, certainly someone that always has our backs and, you know, willing to work hard to uplift all of us in the community. So those were my comments. I am just delighted to be serving as chair-elect, and I will have big shoes to fill. I have no plans yet. So we'll see if I can follow in all the great things that Quentin accomplishes. But with that, I'm handing it over to Chris, and he's going to talk about all the super things that he and his staff are working on. So thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. So
You know, the one thing I think you'll see unique about the chamber is that it's not just one person that comes up here and speaks. I mean, we actually travel and we work together as a team. And so from the staff through the board too, we make sure that we're talking with our chair-elect, so there's continuity going forward. So, and I'm sure you've all been parts of organizations where there's a chair, then the person coming up behind them changes direction 180 degrees, and people don't know from year to year where you're going. We've been very purposeful in how we select our leaders, and also how we do the transition from year to year. So it really is a team effort. Quentin, Kelly, and Skip Weekly and myself, we have weekly calls. We get together on what's going on, so we're all on the same page. So Quentin has an initiative going forward this year. Kelly's fully apprised of what's going on. We can just kind of keep that ball moving down the court, so it's not start, stop again on here. And really my role as a staff person is to take all of their great ideas and actually try to figure out how we're going to get it done. And through a strategic plan, that's something that, you know, we've talked about, and I've talked about since I've been here, that the chamber really has never had. It's had work plans, but no real strategic long-term plan. So this is the first one in quite some time that we've had, and this gives us that direction that we're all pushing in for the next several years to know what we're trying to do. The one main thing I'd say, the overarching is, I'd say we want to make the chamber very transparent in what we're doing. So that means the community, the members should all know exactly what we're doing, how we're doing it, how did the chamber come to a decision, so it's not, you know, reading something in the paper and not knowing, well, I'm not really sure how the chamber works and who made those decisions. Because I think transparency is key in every organization, and for the members too to know who's making the decisions. And, you know, I'd like to have input in something. I know where to plug in and when to plug in before those decisions get made. And so that's been a very intentional thing that we've done over the past year, trying to set up those policies and procedures, trying to make it more accessible to our general membership and even non-members as well too, because we serve the community and we're first and foremost for our members, but we're also for the community as well too, to make sure people understand and we can bring them along with us. And so through that strategic plan and getting in some of the specifics, one of the things that we wanted to try to do was really try to engage our members. And for those of you who've been part of the chamber for years, it's not easy to get involved. I think sometimes you get involved in a chamber and you get lost pretty quickly. If you don't go to the right meeting, or you don't go to the right committee, you're not really sure if that's for you. And so what we tried to do is make it very clear and give very different engagement opportunities for different types of people going forward. So as the year progresses, you'll start to see us put out different involvement areas that people can come in and really kind of get into the weeds of what's going on in the chamber and find that sweet spot that's for you, because it's not going to be the same for somebody who's sitting next to you. It's going to be something very, very different. It might be a business initiative that you want to try to work on or push. It might be a connection you might want to try to push, or it could be a community initiative that you want to get more involved in. That's a little bit bigger than you and your business. And so one of those areas too is you'll see we're going to get more involved in membership that we've talked about too. And so very purposefully asking, who are our members? Why are they members? Even talking to people who used to be members and ask them, okay, why are you no longer members? Is it something we did? Is it a financial issue? Are you focused in some other areas? Not really as a sales pitch, but really to generally understand what the businesses need. Because in the end, like Quentin said, like Kelly said, it's all about membership value. And so I think when I spoke here last time, which was probably well over a year ago, about what I was going to do when I first got here, I did a lot of listening sessions with members and a lot of businesses in the community. And so we're going to start to do that again, go back out and say, okay, from what we heard, are we doing what we said we're doing? Are you happy with what's going on? Do you like to see something different? And try to pull in more people into the fold to get involved in the chamber. The other thing that we're going to be doing too is leadership development. So as Quentin mentioned, we have our leadership Harrisonburg. But one thing we're going to be doing as well too is, through the board, is trying to identify those leadership qualities we think are needed within the business community and the community at large. And so you'll see from leadership class to leadership class maybe a very specific focus on a different type of quality. So I'm sure you've all gone through, those of you who've gone through the class probably can talk about the exact sessions that you all went through, because they were all very similar. Going forward, they may not be that way, depending on the leadership quality we're trying to push. That might take a couple years, might be a little bit quicker than that, but that's something too we're going to be reaching out and asking people, what leadership qualities do you think in the community that we need, that we're lacking, that we should really focus on from a business community standpoint, but also these are future leaders in the community. What just community-wide do we need as well too? The other thing we talked about was our signature events. So there's lots of different things that we're doing. We're doing our typical networking events. We're doing our award celebrations. We're also doing educational events too, where there might be on a particular policy issue that we're doing. Two brand new events that we're doing. One is our Women's Empowerment Network, where we'll have a summit, that's probably our fastest growing group that we have. That's going to be later on this year. And another one that we're doing was going to be state of education. So one thing that we've identified and we've talked with, and this probably comes as no surprise, is that our K through 12 system here is extremely important. And the first place anybody asks about when they move here is, how are the schools? And that's something too that we want to make sure we're connected into the business community. You know, are we helping our city and our county schools? What things can we do better? What can we push them to maybe do a little bit better? What are there some disconnects that we might be able to do? How do we partner businesses to show different careers that are out there too? So we do a very good job with our higher ed, but we also want to focus on our K through 12 as well too, and try to keep those kids here too. And you know, there's great higher ed institutions here, and educate them on what they have, all the opportunities that are here, and really push those here. So you'll see, we'll probably hear from the superintendent from the city, and then once the county chooses their new superintendent, that'll probably be one of the first public speaking opportunities that they'll have as well too. So that'll be something you'll absolutely want to hear and attend. We talked about advocacy a lot. So one thing that the chamber has had, we've always had a public policy committee. So one thing we're going to change a little bit is we're going to rename it to Industry and Government Affairs. And so part of that is because policy and economic development go hand in hand, and those are two things that we have to talk together about, because you could have great policy, but if it's not good for the business community, that's a problem. And we also need to know, what do the businesses specifically need to push on the regulatory front, whether it's in the city, in the county, Richmond, and as much as we can possibly do in DC. So those are things that in those groups, we're going to be talking about infrastructure, different types of projects we might want to try to bring here, working with the city, working with the county. What can we do as a business community to try to attract those? And those will be opportunities that our general members will have a chance to get involved in, speak about, ask questions, even sometimes bring initiatives or bring thoughts to the table too, because as much as you would think we have our finger on the pulse on everything, there's lots of things that go on that fly under the radar that we don't know about. And you know, unlike a trade association where we have a singular focus, the chamber, we cover everybody. So that means we're looking every which way on things in there, and we may miss something. And so that's why we rely on our members to bring that to us to find out what should we be focusing on and when should we be focusing on it. The other area we're going to be working on is community development. And so I had one question someone had asked me, well, what's the difference between economic development and community development? So economic development is kind of really what you think about. It's your jobs, it's your workforce, what you're trying to do. You're bringing industry here, keeping it here. Community development, that's your quality of life. And so what's going on in the education system? What's going on in our parks, our amenities? Do you enjoy living here? What can we try to do? Because again, everybody works here, but they also live here. We want them to stay here. And a lot of the companies that maybe don't have clients here, they can choose where they locate. We want to make sure that they're locating here, and so all those amenities that their employees want to use are here. And so how do we work with them, and then the county and the city, and then the state to some extent too, to make sure that this is the best place to live, work, and play anywhere, not just in the valley, but in the state. And then finally, one of the areas, and some of you may have even participated in some, we have regional councils. And so those are essentially, I like to call mini chambers geographically set up around the county. And that's really to engage our towns and to make sure that what's going on hyper-local in the towns, in the business communities, all those different types of initiatives that are going on. So we want to push our members to get more involved in, if you don't live in the city, if you don't live and you live in one of the towns, get involved in one of those regional councils. Help us figure out, there are lots of Main Street projects that are going on. There's lots of different small town initiatives that are going on. How can we make these places more vibrant that are going on, and what can the chamber do to help push those initiatives forward? And even if it's just connecting them to make sure that they're talking, that alone is a huge piece. And so that's really the details and what we're trying to push, and as we push those out, we're hoping that members will start to join, ask how they can be a part of something, and really start to get into the weeds on things, as opposed to coming to a business after hours, you see somebody from month to month, and then you don't really talk again. We want people to start to roll up their sleeves and really get involved in the community. And I know I'm speaking to the choir here, because you're all actively involved too. So hopefully you go back to your businesses and say, the chamber's doing something. We should get some more of our employees involved that are in there as well too. So with that being said, those are some of the details and some of the higher arching things that the chamber's doing. I know Kelly, Quentin, and myself are happy to take any questions if we've got some time. And
I think we have time for one.
Yeah.
So if anybody has a question, that'd be great to offer to Chris.
And if not, that's okay too.
I got a question. What's the chamber's relationship with the faith-based community here in the valley?
So we actually work with the faith-based quite closely, particularly on the child care and housing initiatives that are going on. There was a lot of faith-based groups that had gone out and started to do surveys and talk to congregation members about their needs and their wants. And so we've been collaborating very closely to listen to what they're doing, and if we can take that and push it on our end, we're trying to do that as well. Thank you.
You guys did a very thorough job, so thank you for telling us what's going on with the chamber. It's great to see some Rotarians in leadership, so Quentin and Chris, thanks for being part of us and helping lead the chamber as well. Thank you to all of our guests today, and we are thankful for all of you that attended, and we are adjourned.